2, 1, go.
Welcome everyone to another podcast of Adeel Pirzada podcast. Happy Friday, everyone. Today we got another exciting podcast. This podcast is all about construction and real estate. So our mission is to get you educated, get you learn, get you familiar with construction, especially commercial construction. That we are expert and we provide pretty comprehensive services on commercial side of construction. So this show is all for construction lovers and also for some real estate people that have a real estate interest that is actually linked to construction at the end of the day anyway. So it's the educational show just for you guys. Today, I got myself here, as usual, Adeel Pirzada, and I got Kevin Padillo with me. How are you doing, Kevin?
Hey, I'm doing very well. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me today.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for being here.
And as we jump in today, I just want to introduce the Pircon group. As you can tell by our wonderful T-shirts and haircuts, we are members of the Pircon group. And we are commercial construction experts. We do so many great services, so many scopes of work. Our key products are general contracting and design work. So if you need your permits done, any drawings, renders,
site plan, floor plan, elevation plans,
yeah,
residential drawings, commercial drawings,
project management,
development drawings, building permit drawings, special use drawings. So we take care of all the our engineering and floor plan designing, rendering, 3D modeling. We do everything. You name it, we do everything about construction, planning, and design.
Yes, so great things are happening in our company. We provide so many great services. It's founded by this man here, Adeel Pirzada, and I'm going to introduce you to him in the next couple minutes. But if you want information on our services, you could visit us at pircongroup.com, Pircon group.com. Visit that website and we can help you. Now, as we get started, you're probably wondering, maybe it's the first time you've listened to this podcast. This podcast is named the Adeel Pirzada Podcast. And if you're wondering who Adeel Pirzada is and why is it named after Adeel, I'm sitting beside Adeel actually over here. And Adeel Pirzada is the founder of and creator of the Pircon Group. The first 3 letters of the Pircon Group is the first 3 letters of his last name. And he's been the founder for 7 years. He's been commercial construction and involved in subdivision construction, heavy construction for almost 20 years. And with his great experience and strengths and lessons, he has great experience in estimating and is our chief estimator for our company. And every estimate runs through him. He quotes every job. And he is the person behind the estimating here. And we're going to be covering that today. And I'm going to be asking Adeel here questions about estimating. So I invite you to grab a pen and paper and we will dive in.
Right on, Kevin. Thanks a lot for the great introduction. Just something a little about me if someone's joining here new, that I've been connected with the construction industry for a very long time. And I got my construction experience for many different industries. Like when I was working real estate, that's how I kind of started with construction, looking at houses being built and, multifamily properties, and also what we call infill, which is an old house and demolition and becomes a new house in place. So all that stuff that led me to getting into construction school and getting jobs in construction, learning construction from there, being a project manager, being an estimator, which, all kind of summarized into Pircon becoming a construction company. So Pircon coming into an existence, which is Pirzada Construction, and that existence providing people with its commercial services and residential services. The reason we promote commercial all the time, because that's what we do 90% of the time. It's the majority of our work is commercial. And also, commercial construction is a bit different than residential. It requires more organization. It requires better timelines and schedules. Not that every construction project needs a schedule and timelines and budgets that needs to be met, but in commercial, when it comes to business, numbers are everything, and they become even more important. So yeah, that's who I am. I am all about construction, and I am all about real estate. This is where it all starts. You need real estate in order to have construction. So when I had all the real estate stuff in life, I said, well, may as well start building on it too now. So that's what we've been doing. We've been doing construction for the last 8 years as Pircon Group. With that, we provide consulting and building permit services, as well as we also go ahead after all we get your permits and your plans from the city approved. We also go ahead and build those. So we're one-stop shop for all your construction needs. And we also have a real estate division where we do cater just very exclusive clients. We work with a lot of our clients are actually developers and investors. So we do turn up their properties and turn them into something feasible and profitable for them. We do complete renovations and new builds for these customers, and that's how we make them happy. Yeah, so that's something about me and Pircon. So as usual, we're going to go over some questions that Kevin has lined up with related to construction. So Kevin, tell me what you got today.
Awesome. So everything about estimating. If you don't know what estimating is, I think how would you define estimating, Adeel? In a simple like Webster's dictionary, how would you define that?
I don't know what the dictionary meaning is, but to me, estimating is actually having a vision of a project with each detail item, and then trying to put that on a piece of paper associated with the items that are required to complete a project. So whether it's it's the area that you need to know what you're building. So, so you need to have the quantity, and then you need to have a price attached to it. That will become the estimating. I know there is a easier definition to that, but I'm just giving the one that I understand. Is basically putting everything on a piece of paper with the visual and with the items that you understand will be becoming part of the project, and then you price it.
Awesome. So according to Mr. Oxford, estimate, roughly calculate or judge the value, number, quantity, or extent of. In layman's terms, it could be something as a quote, something as a price, cost. And there's so many different types of pricing. Maybe we can go into that later. However, estimates is a key part of construction, and it's a key part of knowing how much it costs for construction. And I know there's so many different key elements here of a quote and an estimate. Adeel, could you share with us the key elements of an estimate, and what can someone find on an estimate?
So an estimate should be able to give you a detail about the items that are part of the project that are being worked on and being installed, and their quantity and the cost. So it should be able to give you, now not all estimates will have the quantities, but it should tell you what is being done and what is going to cost. That is what you're there to look at the estimate for.
Right. So you mentioned quantity. You mentioned costs.
So first thing, the detail,
line items.
Yeah, the detail of the item that's being installed or being serviced.
Okay.
Some detail about the quantity, like how much it is that it's been discovered or that's been asked for, and the cost. So a detail estimate, which we call it a line item estimate, and there is another term for that. You would also have a rate. So you will have a line item, so the item itself, and then the quantity of that item. That's, how many are being installed, the rate of each item, and then the total cost. So that's what you would see in a full estimate. But some estimates on a smaller project, the least it should have, I would say, this is where I'll tell you, an estimate, the least it should have a detailed item. So with the description, what is being done, and the cost for it. So you could have the quantity and the rate skipped. If it's, let's say most of the items are one single item or they are lump sum items, so which will go in detail what they are, Kevin. Then you don't need to put so much of quantity because it's one item, and then there is no unit rate because that's the rate. It's just one quantity and that's the rate. So you'll know what the cost is. So that's how the typical, the easier end of the estimates are being done.
Right. So it sounds like you could have lump sum on for certain parts of the project. So a big lump of money into one part. So would you like that could be such as framing, am I right? Like framing or drywall, that could be one lump sum.
Actually, no, there is other things too. So in a line item, you could have a lump sum and then you could have a project as a lump sum. So let me give you, let's put some examples and then we'll understand. So let's say you go to Rona or Home Depot or Lowe's. You go find out and you need a bulb for your house. So you'll go there and you say, I need a bulb, and they'll give you one. So that's one quantity, and then you have the cost, right, for one. So on a typical estimate, if you want to put that in there, you'll say bulb, and you'll say quantity 1, and then you'll have the rate, and then times that quantity, so you have the total cost. The reason why there is a single quantity and then the rate is just that if during the project, if you need to raise amount of bulbs that you need to purchase or you need to install, you just add those bulbs that you need, and then now you got the total cost being increased. So it's not only to have an estimate of the cost in front of you, it's also kind of helps you, okay, if there is more stuff being added to the estimate, what are we going to use the base for the cost? So the owner would have those kind of estimates, or there, like, and this is why I said on bigger projects, that's where the detail estimates will go in, because there's so many variables. So let's say if you're building a school and everything is estimated, by the way, like every single thing on these big projects. So not only the small stuff, the big, huge stuff in millions and millions of dollars, every single quantity to the very little, it gets estimated. At least it needs to be put on the piece of paper that what is being installed, especially when it comes to like public money, when the city is doing something, those they follow those estimates like Bible, and they still go up. They still go up in pricing because things change, and then you discover new things. Sometimes, the plans don't move forward as it's been designed. Sometimes there's new surprises, so that stuff happens. So, but their job is, so when a consultant is hired by the city, or or any big corporation, they're building something huge, they'll have a consultant. The consultant will have those. It's called schedule of quantities. So they will build that schedule of quantities for the contractor. So when they're doing the drawings and permitting and their tendering process, they'll create a schedule of quantities, which basically what it is, it's a line item. So it's an item. So say install bulbs, and then they will put how many bulbs do we need. So let's say for a certain school, they need 1,000 bulbs. They'll put 1,000, and they'll write each, means just that number each. So that's a term, that's a unit for that. So the unit for that bulb is each. And now they got 1,000 bulbs. So during the project, and they find out they end up doing 1,050 bulbs, they'll just add 50, and the unit rate is already there, and then the total cost will change. And sometimes on a contract, and depends on a contract and depends on, what they're doing, if that number gets reduced, so let's say they estimated 1,000, but they only ended up installing 900, well, that's what the owner is going to pay. So that's how the mostly of these bigger projects will go, where a consultant will work on it.
So they hold on, they'd pay the lesser amount.
For sure. So whatever it gets into, and they have a surveyor. So they'll have, and a third party will kind of go in there, or the same consultant, their management side will go in and will actually confirm that what are the exact quantities that are actually installed, so they can only pay for those, what's been installed. Right? So it happens on a bigger project. When you come to, I say, one tier down project, so let's say it's not that $1 million project or in hundreds and hundreds of thousands.
How much would you think? Like maybe 600,000, 500,000 less?
I think anything more than 500,000 for sure needs to be detailed, because there are so many variables, like you can't control it. And then it makes it easier for the contractor and the owner. So let's say you're building a school. I'm just taking a big example. Like you're building a ground up construction, right? And a commercial building.
Right.
And you said, okay, there is fire sprinkler, right? In those commercial building. And you said, okay, we need, 1,500 fire sprinkler heads. Okay. If that number changes, you don't want to go back as a contractor, estimate the whole thing out. If you can easily go on just change your quantities, and then you'll have more money. And same thing goes with the owner. If something changes, let's say it goes less in quantity, they only want to pay for what has been installed. So the quantities that matches the final product, that's what will go in, and then that's what they will pay. Anything less than that, it's actually a lot of work. Unless, see, that's the thing. You won't have a proper consultant on a project unless it's a big project. And usually those schedule quantities are created by consultant. As they design the project, they will write what items are being done for the project, and they'll write the quantities. So it's kind of done by the third party. They will have those quantities, and then they spread it out among the contractors, the qualified contractors who are bidding on the project. Now they all have same paper. They're all bidding on an exactly same thing, on exact same schedule quantities. So that's why it's very important how it comes into play, the schedule quantities, which becomes your estimate on a project. On a smaller project, you don't have a consultant, okay, number one. And let's say if you did have one,
which would be a designer or someone.
Yeah,
someone that
a consultant
looks over the project
yeah,
from a design point of view.
Yeah.
Just for all the beginners, maybe they don't know all these words and stuff. That's what Adeel is referring to.
Good thing, Kevin, I got you here, because otherwise I'd be just keep going and spitting all these words and
down the rabbit hole. So much words.
Yeah, it's a good thing you can point out those. So on a smaller project, you won't have that consultant. And consultant, yes, the one who is going to help you with your building permit process, who's going to create those drawings and also submit them.
Yeah, the
and by the
DPs,
way, Pircon does that. We do act as a consultant, and we have created many schedule quantities for our owners, okay, for our clients. And then we also have created bidding documents and the other stuff. So we, like not full on stuff that kind of, is it happens in the industry and then like happens on a really big project, but big enough projects that needed the help. That needed those schedule quantities, those details. So we had to come in. The owner needed that help for us to come in as a consultant. So we come in as a consultant. We look at their plans, what they want to build. So we do all the drawings, and while we're doing them, we also creating those bidding documents, which is the big part of it is schedule quantities. So we're building those schedule quantities. We're writing every single thing down, item by item that needs to be done in that project. As little as toilet paper roll, it's in there that we're putting, okay, if the contractor is responsible to kind of furnishing it that level, we're putting that in there, and we'll say toilet paper roll, and quantity 2 and unit each. So that's how we would write it. Now the benefit of that is that the owner, our client, can take that document from us, that schedule quantities, and he can go to 5 of his trustworthy general contractors and then he will give them that document. And he'll say, okay, sir, bid me on this. I need an estimate. Now everyone looking at exactly same drawing, an exact same schedule of quantities, an exact same number of quantities with the line item details, so that all the quotes that will be received will be highly competitive. Well, I don't mean their numbers, but the information you have provided is almost identical. Everything that you provided to them, you provided them same copy of one thing. Now everybody is bidding on it, and you'll know, that who's the right candidate for your construction, because you can look at it and you can now really see the price difference among the other, and if they're competitive with each other or not. And they can't complain because they all been given same information. So if one bids higher than the other, and it's already understood. They all had same information. And if one is really high or one is really low, you'll know right away what's going on. Whereas some of the smaller contracts where you don't have that scheduled quantities, and you hand out a drawing to a general contractor, a builder, and you're asking them, you're asking them to bid you on a project, then you're like, get all your prices, and you're trying to compare. You know what? It's not even a right comparison because they all don't have the same information. One contractor would look at it, and now you're asking them to do a scheduled quantities for you. So they'll look at it and they'll count number of lights. And if they miss something, or if they add something that shouldn't be added, now all of a sudden you got a one contractor bidding on a project, on a same project, completely different items than the other one, right? Maybe what if one contractor misses or adds some extra stuff as compared to the other contractor? And, and because of that one little mistake, you don't end up hiring the right person because you think their prices are too high or too low, whatever the reason is. So it's always a good practice actually to have that consultant, or even if you don't have a consultant, you don't need a full-on consultant. You can actually call Pircon and we can help you just building the scheduled quantities for your project. So we don't have to do the whole package and then get you everything that requires in a bidding document. We can get you some of the stuff like drawings, renderings, and then just schedule quantities.
So basically, what Adeel's saying is we can help figure out how much you need of the material.
Yeah.
And put that on an estimate so you know how much to quote and how much you need to quote from others. So yeah, if you need help, that's a great actually service for people to know. There's so many different softwares as well that you could use. I know there's BIM and Revit, all these different online things you could use. There's so many great options for you if you're if you're new to construction, but you have a construction business and you want to get contractors in, this is a great service for you to actually know what you need and actually even to protect yourself from getting ripped off from a contractor that wants to charge crazy.
Yeah.
Or like for extra stuff that you don't need. It's an accurate number.
Exactly. Like it happens with us all the time. We will get a drawing and we have to put an estimate together, but we don't have scheduled quantities. So we have to just kind of figure that out ourselves. Yeah. And we don't know if the other competitor is doing the same thing, if they're actually fully reading through their drawings and looking at every single quantity and putting into their software or whatever they use to get the final number, or they just looked at it and just said, I'm going to charge this per square foot, and then just give a number. So, and then sometimes the client, the owner, the end receiver of these services would think, okay, well, some person was quick and then, they did a estimate really quick and then they gave us a price per unit rate is like, we're going to go with them. But that is not the right way of choosing your general contractor. So, and that's where I was covering, Kevin. I talk about what the scheduled quantities are. So that is being used, but what is being used in the industry, especially for the smaller work, right? And you don't expect that anyway. Like, let's say if you had a toilet that gone, then you need a service for, or a sink or your stove, and you get a technician to come to your house or a plumber. And then they give you a quote. Most of the time it's verbal. Now, those are called lump sum quotes. So they'll give you a price.
Which is one payment.
Yeah, so
Lumped
it's
into
one
one big
payment.
one
He's
payment.
just going to consider everything in
Yeah.
one thing. So he's going to say, okay, my time to go to a store,
Yeah.
get a new toilet, bring it back, whatever
in
the
one.
attachments I need, and my time to install it. Here, $1,000. That's what I'm going to charge. So that is a lump sum number. That means it includes everything in there, which works great on a smaller jobs. And you don't want that line item quote anyway. You don't want your plumber just to sit there and prepare that estimate that has the scheduled quantities. Now he's saying, okay, one toilet, one seat, one pipe, one wax ring, blah, blah, blah.
You probably wouldn't care either.
Yeah, you wouldn't care. And it's too much detail. So it works great for projects like that. Or even something bigger where you got few trades together and you need few things done. You can say, hey, lump sum costs. 30,000, right? And you can have your quote written down like that. So that's the first stage of quotation where you would include all the details. So you'll still say supply and install a toilet, fully installed with a wax ring, everything that you can think of, right? That needs to be in a project. You should write it down, what exactly you're including, and then the cost, lump sum cost, which means the cost of everything. That works great on a small project. So I would say anything under 100K, I wouldn't even say 100 because it's still a little too much for that. I would say anything 10,000 or less, lump sum, right? Perfect. You can just say, yeah, this is lump sum cost, one cost. Anything 10 grand, 200, I'll go all the way to 300 to 500,000. Should be at scheduled quantities, but shouldn't really require a unit rate and a unit. Okay, it could be just the line item and then the cost, just the total price of that line item. And then for a project, you may have 15 line items, you may have 10 line items, you may have 50 line items. It works great. You just say, let's say if it's some of the things we're discussing, like doors. Okay, so if it's a door, there's so many things that goes in a door, like the door itself, the paint, the hinges, the locks, the frame, the door stopper. So you can write all that detail and you can say, this is the cost for the door. And then you can say same thing for the flooring. So you can have all the details about the flooring and then just have one cost. You don't have to break it down like, hey, the door handle is this much, the door it's this much, the paint on it this much. Usually this where it becomes beneficial is on a bigger project, not on a smaller project.
There are so many different types of contracts and estimates that you could have. There's, if you look it up online, there's cost plus, design build contract. We haven't even dived into all these. We're only diving into one.
We haven't even really dived into estimating.
Yeah.
So we're only discussing one part of estimating, and then that estimating is kind of part of the contract. And then there's so many different types of contract. So
for sure.
Yeah. So
there's guaranteed max price contract, incentive construction, IPD, lump sum, time and materials, unit price. We can cover these at another time, or if you'd like, you feel free to just go research this on any blog on Google, look up construction contracts, and you could educate yourself as an owner, as a project owner. And when I say owner, I mean the person who owns a project. This is a great place to go just to see whatever's best for you and on how to work with a contractor legally.
Yeah, this is what Kevin is reading right now. It's out of constructionblog.autodesk.com. So it's from Autodesk, which is a software company for all your construction and designing. So there are so many different types of contract, but each contract would always have a price. And that price is called, scheduled quantities, or your line item scope of work detail, or your cost schedule, whatever you want to call it. There's different names for it, but all contracts have pricing in it. They have a pricing schedule, and those are the things. So there's three main ones that we discussed that are good for estimating. So lump sum, right? And then also your contracts are kind of back it up, right? So if you have a certain pricing, then the contract is certain way as well. So there's a lump sum, estimating. So you can just price it all in one. Then there is a line item pricing. And then there is schedule quantities, detail pricing, unit rate pricing. So those would be the different types of estimates.
So let's pivot quickly to some advice, because I know we're up kind of onto our timeline here. Give us some advice that you have for a first-time estimator.
Okay, number one. So estimating is all about judging. It's all about visualizing your project. So let me talk in a small term for an individual. Let's say they're doing a renovation for their backyard or their basement. How would they look at estimating? So estimating would be visualizing your project, fully completed. So from beginning to the end, all the items that you require, you write it down on a piece of paper, and then you assign a price to it. As simple as that, I can tell what estimating would be for them. So let's say you're painting your room. How would you estimate that? You could get a piece of paper and just write down in number format, item by item, every single thing you require for that painting project. So you're going to need paint, you're going to need brush, you're going to need a roller stick, some cover paper, some masking tape. That is your schedule quantities. That will become your estimate.
A really interesting thing. I had a conversation today with a guy. He works for NMAX, and he's working on a project downtown. And I said hi to him, and he said something really interesting. He says, project managers with the experience, they do really well. And this kind of ties into estimating. And, if you're going to do painting, it's good that you need to do it before as well, just so you know how much paint you need. Because maybe you'll order less paint than you need. And if you've never done this before and you try to make an estimate, you could get paint less. You might order the paint that's not enough. But let's say you have someone that has schedule of quantities that gives that to you, or maybe you have experience. Now you know from looking back, oh, hey, I think I need to do 2 coats for this kind of wall. So you add 2 coats, and you're not running out of money in the project just to buy the extra thing of paint.
100%.
So experience is really necessary.
So what it really means, Kevin, what you're really saying, a good schedule quantity, so a good bidded project or good estimated document, it would also help you in project management. So if you got a project that is very well quantified, that every single line item is very well explainable and there is a cost attached to it, this will turn into a good document for your project management.
Key.
Right.
All right. So schedule of quantities, so important. Good to visualize it. Good to have that experience. And if you don't, go hire someone or go talk to someone that has done it before, and they can give you advice. So the next thing I really want to get into is, as we go into our final questions, if that's okay with you, Adeel, is what advice would you have for an owner of a project for the first time running an estimate or looking for estimates? What should they do so they are good?
Okay. So for early on, what we were been discussing in this podcast, we were discussing to how you would look at it as an estimator. Let's talk about I think what you're really asking, how you would look at the estimate part of construction as a project owner, as a client, right? As if you're the developer or the investor or the owner of the project, how you would look, how important is that estimating part? So this is what I would say. This is the most important. So when you're making your decision, so understanding the cost of your project and then making your decision who to hire, it's the most important part. This is what I would say. Again, I'll go back to my advice. So anything 10 grand or less, I would just take a lump sum number with some detail about the whole project. So if there is a washroom renovation that requires paint, new toilets, and sink, I don't need the full detail. I just need it written down that it includes the toilet, and it includes the installation and supply of the sink and the flooring and the wall, and then one number is good enough. So I don't know, being 10 grand, whatever, that's fine. It's acceptable. If it's more detail, if there is a separate cost for toilet and the sink and the paint and the flooring, perfect. Or somehow combine in a subgroup, perfect, even better. But if it was a one lump sum cost, it's still fine. It's not that big of a project. You're not going to get into many complications, so that one lump sum number should be fine. Anything above that, the owner should be expecting a detailed quote that includes, now the contract itself or the whole proposal is one thing. I'm just talking the estimating part of it, because a contract or the whole proposal should also have a schedule in it, should also have the payment terms in it, should also have the payment dates when they need to be made. So there is a lot to dig into the contract side of it, but I'm just talking about the estimating part. So if it's the bigger project in estimating, then you should have actually a very detailed line item by line item by line item, or by subgroup of the line item. So let's say if there is a group is for painting, so it includes all the paint, right? But it needs to mention that it includes the paint for the walls, it includes the paint for the door, includes the paint for baseboards, includes the paint for the ceiling. So every single thing is written down, and then you have that cost. Same thing goes with flooring. Same thing will go with framing, drywall, mechanical, electrical, structural, civil, geo. So whatever that is in there, it would have a cost by subsection.
Breakdown. Have a good breakdown.
Yeah, have a good breakdown, and everything's included there. So okay, your civil is costing you this much, your structural is costing this much, the framing and drywall part is this much, the finishing part, paints and other things are this much. So that's what you should be receiving. And then on the number 3, so anything 500,000, you want to get a consultant involved. There is a big reason, because they are the third party. They are the mediator, basically. And if anything were to go wrong on a project, you have a third party person in there who's actually going to favor you more than anything, not on a bad regard, like not to favor you wrong way, where you're wrong and they're still favoring you. But what I mean in your favor is that if you hired someone and then they're doing their job properly, one, they should be able to look at the project and tell you what all the quantities are. 2, they should also be able to help you if there are going to be any issues arising before the project or during the project. So they can be extra set of eyes for you as your consultant. And as your consultant, they will also have to visit sites and do certain other things if you enroll them too. And that becomes extra set of eyes. So if before anything becomes an issue, or it has become an issue, they're able to look at it, mitigate it, bring it up, and resolve it by having you and the GC on the same table. So it works great. And then also they'll have a schedule of quantities built for you by line item with the unit rate and the cost. That is actually the same document that will be shared with all the GCs, so your price will be highly competitive. It will be very comparable with the other contractors because they all got same information. And because of that detailed schedule of quantities and detailed pricing, you'll be able to make your better decision, who you need to choose from. If there are any issues that arise in the project, let's say you need more quantities of certain items, you already have the cost for it. If you ended up installing less, then you're only paying for those what been installed and not paying for anything extra. So it kind of helps you in a long way, and it makes the project management easier for the contractors, and it makes your payment system easier. So there's a lot of benefit of doing that. So those are my recommendations of how to choose your estimate.
Perfect. Just to recap, if it's under 10K, do it in a lump sum. If it's above, what is it? Go ahead.
So under
So much for a
500,000,
recap, eh?
yeah, 300,000 to max. I'll go 500,000, nothing more than that. You can do a detailed estimate with the
Breakdown.
with the breakdown, and then anything above 500, you want to have the unit rate estimate.
And also above 500 is hire a consultant, a professional who can help you and guide you along the way.
That's right.
Then he'll make sure, like he or she will make sure that everything is looking good and your design is aligned as well.
Yeah, and one more advice that see,
Yeah.
like, so let's say you're doing a smaller project, 300,000, and you don't want to hire a consultant, or you don't have the capacity to hire a consultant who can, do everything for you on the management side for the ownership. This is what you should do. You should actually try to prepare a list. So if you can't get a full-on consultant, maybe ask your architect or your design team, whoever you're helping with the project, to create a list of, so which you can call schedule quantities. So basically create a list of line items. It doesn't have to have the quantities, but this is what I'm saying, because quantities could get very tough, and at least have the line items. And if you got the quantities in there, that's perfect. And have that shared with every single contractor who's bidding on your project. That way, they're all looking at the same information. Because you also may have this issue where you blindly asking contractors, like, hey, here is a drawing. Now, can you give me a price? You blindly asking them to screw it up for you. Because they may not add something, because they may think it a certain way. They may think, I don't know, I don't think we're doing it, or I don't think it's required. Like, it could be as big as like mechanical portion of the estimate. And then you're thinking, other 4 contractors bidded me on this, so I guess this one too. And then you choose them, and they were the lowest price. And then when you really get into detail, the contractor, I'm assuming if that contractor, if you didn't give them those schedule quantities, they missed it. I'm assuming if they missed it, there's obviously something wrong with them. And I'm assuming if something wrong with them, the contract itself is not going to be very clear. So you're definitely going to have issues on the project. You're going to sign a contract that doesn't include a whole bunch of things that you require on a project. Now, when you're during the project, you're discovering that all those things are not even included. So it's a best practice, even if it's a small project, create a schedule of quantities for yourself, or ask your architect, ask your, whoever you're helping you out with the process, or you can call Pircon. We can help you. We can look at your drawings, really understand what you really need done, and we can just write down those items that required for your project, and we can create the whole document that you can share with your preferred contractors, and they can all price on one same thing.
I believe in like being clear, and the more clear you are on what you need, the better it is for everyone. So
100%.
this schedule of quantities will help you be so very clear. So anything else you want to cover, Adeel, or do you want to keep going? I know I could tell you love this, so
yeah, there's so much. I was an estimator for quite some time at a big construction firm, and also like Kevin said, every single estimate that we do at Pircon, one way or another, does go through my set of eyes. I have to look at it, see, we got everything that kind of project needs to have. So I am very heavy on this stuff. It's very important. Estimating is like the number one key, the number one thing in construction. If you screw up in your estimating, you can basically screw up. You can expect to have everything screwed up for you, like the schedule, the project itself, the things it requires. Like, it just ruins the whole project. So it's a very important part of the construction process and construction contract. Now, I think those are the big 3, I would say, how you would should expect something by the cost. And if you don't have the resources, if you're not doing that $1 million project and you're like, hey, I'm not hiring a consultant to represent me and take care of my stuff and be my project manager, that's fine. Just do that work yourself. So have somebody from your team, or like I said, hire a professional company and ask them to prepare a schedule of quantities for you, and make sure the same schedule of quantities get shared with everybody who's bidding on the project. That's the best way to get a price. Like sometimes you're not getting a right price on your project because everybody's writing down different information. One contractor comes in and he's like, hey, what kind of chandelier do you need, or lighting? And then you tell them something, and another one comes in and you tell them completely different. And now they're bidding on completely two different things. And then you're trying to compare prices. It just doesn't even work.
Yes.
Yeah. So
perfect.
very
There's
important.
some great value here today. Anything final words? These last words you want to share? Estimating top tips. You want to go into?
Yeah. Just
leave it all on the table so we can all hear.
Yeah, just become estimating is a big part. Just become really good at it. If you're a contractor or wanting to be, on your way to become a contractor, or if you're a project manager or an estimator working for some construction firm, it's estimating. It's a very good tool that you need to get yourself familiar with. And you need to get really good at it, because if you're a good estimator, you're a good project manager. But here's the thing, like estimators are above project managers because there is a lot of risk. Like there is a lot of experience required to be an estimator, because you need to look for those things that are not visible by a lot of people, right? So you need to think after the fact, and it's okay, if I need A, I'm going to need B and C and D. It doesn't say anything about it, so you have to assume that you're going to add those, because you can't complete, your A without those things. And, there's so many things to look at, and all that comes from experience. So in my opinion, in order to become a good estimator, you have to be a good project manager first. If you're a good project manager, you got experience, you know what it really takes to get things done. And whenever you get an estimate, you're doing that. And just to mention one last thing, that even when these big projects are happening, so let's say, these municipalities or provinces and states are building roads and they're handing out those contracts, and then they have scheduled quantities and then line items there. But you know what? There's still so much that's still not there. There's a lot. Like, they don't have like little things like, there's so much that's still not there. So
Yeah.
scheduled quantities is like the minimum that you require, because you'll have a line item and it doesn't tell you everything about the project. So when you're estimating the project, you're still going to have to make up a lot of things in your head
For sure.
that you're going to need it. So like if you're doing
Yeah.
a road project and it says asphalt, well, a truck is needed to go get the asphalt and bring it to the site. And if there's
Yeah.
a weight, you have to estimate that and then consider, because they won't say, hey, they'll only say, supply and install, 600 square meter of asphalt. That's it. It doesn't say anything else like, hey, you need, wood stakes with the asphalt and you need 3 other guys to do this. You need to know, it's already understood. You're a construction professional and you understand what is required to install 600 square meter of asphalt.
Yeah. For sure. That's why project management is key, because you will actually learn the process and you will know what's before and after. So it's because, the client knows what they want on their schedule of quantities. But if you're the estimator and project manager, you'll know what's needed beforehand, like getting the truck, like renting the truck, like what it takes to fill up the truck with gas beforehand and after the project, and all the people and things you'll need. The project manager will know that. And if you're just estimating and you just put what's on the schedule of quantities, you might miss out on the key important steps like labor, tools, gas, all these insurances and things that the company needs, and you could leave it out. and that could hurt the business as well.
Oh yeah, and there's so much that goes in estimating that you could easily screw yourself over, especially it's a big project. It becomes a big problem. I'll just share one example, just a random example. Let's say you were to install a baseboard in your house, okay? And you only need a 2-foot piece. So you're like, okay, 2-foot piece. You go to Home Depot, you're like, how much is a baseboard? You find out the cost is $20 and it's a 10-foot piece. You're like, okay, I only need 2 foot. So I am going to pay $4 for, and then that's what you estimate, which is completely wrong. It doesn't work like that. You actually have to buy a whole 8 or 10-foot stick, and it's going to cost you the same amount of money. So which is, let's say in this example, $20. So when you're estimating it, even your piece that needs to be installed is 2 feet. And if you had per unit rate price, this is why the unit rate actually doesn't work good for the smaller project, because what you would do, you would say unit rate, and an estimator who doesn't know, he'll go like, oh, okay, 10 foot is $20, so I'm guessing it's $2 per foot. Let me put $2 per foot here. And then let's say when you're doing a small project, the homeowner only wants 4 feet. Now you're screwed. Like your 6 feet go to waste. Yeah. And guess what? The owner is not going to pay for it. The owner is only paying you $12, right? It's $2 per foot.
Yeah.
4 feet. So owner is only paying $8. Now your $12 goes to waste.
Because you're being held to that price.
Exactly. So what you should do, that's where the lump sum actually does work. So you go at it, you're like, okay, $20 for me to purchase the product. Even though I'm installing 2 feet, I can only buy in 10-foot length. The rest goes to waste. If you can use it in another project, great. But most of the time, you're not going to be able to. So you put your price $20 to get the product. I don't know, whatever the money you require to paint it, whatever the money required to install it. And that would be your lump sum price. That's why actually is not to do as a contractor and the owner, it's not to do a unit rate contract or unit rate estimate on a smaller project. The lump sum is good. It'll cover everything as long as the detail is there. So that was my last example, just to kind of give a more overview of what is estimating is about. But there is, like I said, there's so much that I can discuss, and I can go examples over and over. Like there's so much that I have came across, and I've learned it from myself, and I see with other people, and what I have learned from other people, and what I have taught other people. There's so much in estimating that I can discuss.
Yeah. So as you could tell, Mr. Adeel is passionate about estimating, and he loves doing it, and he loves talking about it as well. I don't know if you could tell and see what he's talking about, but his passion and energy is very strong.
I love talking about construction, period. Anything about construction, let's talk about it. Digging, erecting, demolition, anything, you just name it. High rise, multifamily, single family, duplex, fourplex, commercial. There's so much to discuss. There's so many different kinds of construction, and there's so many ways to get it done. And there's so many ways of each construction. Like, it takes a certain amount of skill and ordinance and a schedule to build a bridge. It requires a certain amount of skills to build a building. So you need kind of like a certain amount of skill to build a house. So there's different skills that are required, different way you approach it, different way you kind of encounter with the issues that you may have, and different way of solving it. So there's so much in construction. It's just the extreme topic. I always been the real estate guy and love real estate. And the construction is my next favorite, 100%.
That's exactly why you need to tune in to this podcast. Every Friday we go live. Adeel covers his true passion about construction. We cover so many different topics from, we just finished an 8-week commercial construction series. We're going deep into estimating today. We're going to recover these topics again and again. So stay posted, stay tuned. Next week, we're going to be going live with a property developer and investor all the way in Texas. Special guest, his name is Victor Balderas. He's going to be going as well. The next week, we'll be having some more real estate investors coming as well, live from Toronto. So we are going to be covering so many cool things and ranges of work, from construction, property development, real estate investing, architecture, engineering, design, and all these construction things. I want this to be a source for you, and Adeel Pirzada to be a source for you. So if you have any questions about us, feel free to listen to us, check us out, and feel free to visit pircongroup.com for our services and see how we can help you, especially with your schedule of quantities.
100%. Thank you, Kevin, for all the finishing remarks.
Yes. All right, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. If you have any question, if there is any comment, do hit at us. Do let us know if there is anything that you would like us to cover. And yes, we are planning on starting interviews with the business owner all across North America. So we would love to have you on podcasts. If you own a business, if you are making money, we want you to be at our show. We want to discuss that, what makes your success happen and what doesn't make it happen for you, and what you've been doing. We want to know your story, and we want to get some details about, real estate and construction out of your business and how you deal with that. And then there's going to be some learning lessons for everyone here with your construction and real estate experience. So that would be great to have you on our podcast. And like Kevin said, we got a special guest next week. And I think upcoming weeks, we got more guests joining us. So stay tuned every Friday. Be part of our podcast. Do hit the like button, subscribe. And if there's any comments and if there's anything you want to share, hit it up. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.